Today we're going to talk about how to calculate the assets and liabilities of an estate if you've recently lost a loved one. So after you've had a proper opportunity to grieve, and when you're ready, you will need to take steps to work out what assets your loved one had and what debts they had. So that will involve going through their personal papers and their possessions and looking at everything and compiling a list of what they had. So you should consider, firstly, what assets they had and create a balance sheet of their assets. And some assets for you to think about include money in the bank, real estate, motor vehicles, life insurance policies, shares, particularly valuable items such as paintings or collections, a bond from an aged care home or a nursing home, furniture and personal effects, employment entitlements such as long service leave, annual leave, unpaid wages, money that your loved one is owed by other organisations such as reimbursements from healthcare providers and government organisations or loans to friends and family. They might have also been entitled to a refund from the Australian Taxation Office. They might also be entitled to receive an inheritance from another deceased estate. They might be entitled to a credit card reimbursement, such as a credit on a credit card instead of a debt. They might have an interest in a business or partnership of some kind. They might have valuable tools of trade, livestock or crops or some sort of equipment. These are all ideas or things to think about when creating your list of assets. Then it's also important to create a list of the debts that your loved one has. The reason debts are important is because as part of your process in finalising the deceased estate, you need to make sure that creditors, meaning people who are owed money, are paid their debt. So some debts for you to think about are mortgages. There could be some unpaid bills such as power bills, telephone, internet. Could be local council rates. There could be a debt to the Australian Taxation Office, a debt to Centrelink, or a debt to a HECS debt or some other government type debt. There could be unpaid fines, unpaid credit cards. There could be personal loans for motor vehicles or travel. There could be debts that your loved one owed to friends and family. There could be medical debts. And the estate also has to reimburse the funeral expenses that someone makes. When you're going through this process and you're putting together the financial balance sheet for your loved one of the questions that people often ask us is, how do you value certain types of assets? So we'll go through some of the common ways of putting a financial figure to the assets. So for things like cash-like assets, that's pretty straightforward. Money in the bank, you'll simply look at the bank statement, the super statement. If there's shares that are on a public stock exchange, you can look at the share price. So you can determine those things quite easily. Now, if you don't have access to the bank statements right away or the super statements, then you can just put a reasonable estimate for now or say that you don't know it and then continue with your inquiries later on until you are able to get a figure. When it comes to real estate, for the time being, early on, you're able to just put an estimated value of the resale price of the house. You don't really have to get appraisals or valuations too early on, especially if you're just compiling an initial list of assets. For other non-cash assets, such as cars, boats, furniture, all that kind of stuff, you have to think about the second-hand resale value of those items. So you don't value those items as if they were purchased brand new. You value them on what you would get if you sold it to a second-hand dealer, if you sold it at a garage sale, if you sold it at an open market. That's what you want to calculate. Another thing to consider is income. The estate might also receive income after death. For example, the estate might receive rental income, they might receive some sort of cash reimbursements. These are things to properly document as well. And when it comes to debts, Just keep track of all the debts so you know who to repay later on when you have access to the estate money, which means that you may need to apply for probate or letters of administration, and then you can access some of the money in the bank account. The only thing to remember with debts is that any money you receive from life insurance or from superannuation proceeds cannot legally be used to repay general debts of the estate. So that's an important thing to remember. And the reason for that is that the law puts a special treatment on life insurance and superannuation to make sure that lenders and creditors don't have access to it, because that's meant to go to the close family. So that's the other important thing to bear in mind. I hope this video has helped you, and subscribe to our video for more information about what to do if you've lost a loved one.